Hello everyone. In this video, we're gonna talk about the decision-making models, how we can create the model using Microsoft Excel. But before that, let's talk about the concept of creating the model. So to do that, the best way is just to go through an example talking about a decision problem and how we can create our model to solve this problem. So assume that I want to get a new car for myself and I have three different options to select between them. The first car is Kia Sportage 2015, or I can get the Ford full-size truck 2015 as well, or I can get BMW 2015 i8. So which one of those three cars will be the best option for me based on my needs? So to do that, first we need to identify the problem, identify the decision maker or makers, the stakeholder or stakeholders, the goal and the objectives for this problem, the requirements and the alternatives. So before we start talk about those elements, let me give you the full scenario. I want to get the car for myself to go to the work and come back and to use it with my family. So I have myself, my wife, and my kids as a family live together. And for our use, I want to get this car. So here, what will be the problem in this case? The problem is to find the best car for my family. Who is the decision maker or the decision makers? In this situation, I'm gonna make the decision by myself. So I'm the decision maker in the situation. But this decision will not affect me alone, yet it's gonna affect me and my family as well, since they're gonna use the car with me. So the stakeholders in this case gonna be my family, my wife, myself, and my son or my kids, if I have more than one. What is the goal and what are the objectives? So the goal is to get a new car, and that car should be the most economic car, most comfortable, with the best size for my family, and so on. Those are the objectives. The objectives are directly linked to the requirements. So if I want the most economic, so in this case, I'm looking for the lowest price. If I'm looking for the most efficient car, so in this case, I'm gonna look for the gas mileage. For the comfortability, I'm looking for the appealing of the car as the color, for example, and maybe the safety as well. From the requirements, I can consider the maintenance cost as part of the economic perspective or economic objectives. So, and finally, what are the feasible solutions or different options that I have for this car? So those are the alternatives: the Kia Sportage, the full-size Ford truck, or the BMW i8. Based on that, I can build my model or my matrix on Microsoft Excel. So this is basically how the model will look like. The first column in Excel files is basically gonna be the objectives. So the objectives are, as I said, directly linked to the criteria or the requirements. So let's say that the first one is the price or the cost. So in this case, I want to have the lowest or the minimum cost. For the second requirement, let's say that safety, I want to have the car with the maximum or the highest safety options. And with the same way, I'm gonna list all the objectives and the requirements in the first two columns of the matrix. The third column of the matrix is the importance of that requirement, which we call it the weight of the requirement. Here we present it by W1. By the way, the total of those weights should always equal to 1 or 100%. Next, we will list all the alternatives or all the options that we have in the following columns, where each column will present one of the alternatives that we have or that we identified in the previous stage. So with that, we are just left with this part of the matrix, which will have what we call it the data for each alternative, and then we will replace this with an equivalent score for each cell, and based on that we will calculate the total score for each requirement. So by that, for our car example, we can just put the objectives with the requirements. As you can see here, we will talk about the requirements weights in another video, and here you can see that we listed the alternatives, the Kia, Ford, and BMW. So let's take an example about one of the requirements. If we are talking about the color, what will be the objective? In this case, which type of colors do you prefer? Or do you prefer the light colors or dark colors? If you're from those who prefer the dark colors, so darker are better for you. So the objective is to get a darker car. What about the capacity? Since I'm talking about myself, my wife, and my son, so I'm looking for small capacity or the minimum size because my family is small. If I have a family from 7 members, so in this case, my objective will be the maximum capacity or maximum size instead of the minimum size, and so on. For the price, for example, we are usually look for the cheapest or the minimum price. With the same way, we can list all the objectives, requirements, and the alternatives in this area of the matrix. So this is the end of this video. If you have any question, please write it in the comments. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.